What's up, fellow Saiyans, and welcome to episode 29 of my Marvel Minipaints. Today we are doing Multiple Man. He's a member of the X Factor, and his ability, although I haven't got to use him yet, he creates clones of himself or duplicates, and he leaves them in the different areas of the game to do things whenever he's not there. They could do like rescue civilians or defeat thugs and stuff like that. So he is. I have Polaris and Strong Guy left to do for the rest of X Factor. So I figured I'd get him done. And to start him off, we're going to use Elven Flesh for his face, because that's the only flesh that's actually sticking out on his body, is the inside of the cow around the face area. Once we're done with that, we're going to move on over to Leather Brown for his jacket. And you're going to be using quite a bit of paint for this. Multiple's real name's Jamie Madrox. He actually ends up leading X Factor for a long time after. And this Leather Brown works pretty good. Usually one coat will come close to pretty much doing the job. I mean, you may need to add a little extra on certain parts of it, but for the most part, Leather Brown really covers up. And the figure, like all my figures, are primed in uniform gray. There's a lot of jacket to get in between both of them. It's kind of some hard to reach spots in between. Next, for the base below them, we're going to use Dark Stone. And while I'm doing the base, that'll give time for the jacket to dry, so we could work on the blue parts of this costume next. I went with the blue and gold scheme instead of the yellow or the green and gold. I'm going to use deep blue for most of the costume he's wearing. And some of you have been commenting, like, being that my camera's on the right side, like sometimes I've been more camera conscious about it. I've been trying to keep the miniature in the camera angle and less of my hand. So, like, a lot of you recommended switching the camera over to the left side, but unfortunately that's a wall right over there, and there's no real way to set up the tripod in a way that I can see properly. So, I mean, for the most part, I'm trying to be, as I go on with these, I'm trying to be more camera conscious of where it's at, and trying to make sure that I'm not blocking it with my hand. But sometimes it's going to happen. There's nothing I can really do about it. Trying my best not to get any of the blue on the jacket. I'm going to go add a second little coat to the flesh. Touch up a little bit of the blue. They've kind of got on the face there. Now, for the yellow parts on his costume, like the belt, the boots, the thing that goes up his head, we're going to use demonic yellow. It's like a stripe going on down the back of his head. That's also yellow, as well as the X on his forehead. The X itself is red, but the background's yellow. And I'm going to be using a smaller detail brush here for this. And I'll have to touch all this up with an even smaller brush in a bit. And as always, usually any yellow color, especially demonic yellow, usually takes at least 2 coats to show properly. Next, we're going to be using matte black for his belt. We'll also be using this for the black of his eyes way later on in the video. For now, it's just his belt. Next, we're using plate mail metal for both his belt buckle and like the wires or cables or whatever they are underneath him on the base. Add one more coat to his face. Right now we're just taking the detail brush and we're just kind of doing what we can do with the colors. Redoing the yellow, we'll touch up the blue, the brown again, everything. The yellow the lighter colors like the yellow and the elephant flesh, both like you usually need to add a couple coats. Now for the eyes, as always, we're going to use matte white for the white of his eyes. And his miniature is kind of cool, being that he has 2 of him on one base. Now for the red X on his head, we are going to use pure red, and it should show up pretty well being that it's going on top of demonic yellow. I'm going to do his eyebrows with a matte black. We're going to do all our touch-ups with this little tiny brush. And once that's finally done, these dry, we're gonna switch. It's gonna time to start our washing process. And as always, to start with the skin, we're gonna use flesh wash. We're just gonna use this for both faces. Not a lot. You just want to kind of cover over everything and make sure there's no holes of it recessed. Just cover the recesses. Make sure it's not puddling up anywhere. You don't want bubbles or puddles. Wipe if you have too much, wipe it off with a dry brush. After we get the face, we're going to switch over to soft tone. We're going to use that for the yellow and the blue parts of this costume. I'm just kind of wiping this all around, making sure it doesn't puddle up. Strong tone is going to be the next one we use, and that's going to be applied to his jacket. And I'll apply it up sort of because the back of the head's kind of cast in the shadow. I'm going to add a little bit of that to the back of the head and like the lower body parts of the blue. Be a little darker than the soft tone. For the most part, though, we're adding it mostly to the jacket. Now, dark tone, we're going to use strictly for the base. And that's for everything. That's for the base itself and the metallic wires and stuff. We're going to apply this and we're going to let it dry. Now, once it's done, we're going to start with jungle green. And he has green eyes. So we're going to use jungle green for his eye color. So we're just going to add this on top of the matte white we had before. Now, to do our highlights for the skin, you've seen this before. We're mixing elven flesh with just a dab of mummy rose. We're going to mix it up, and we're kind of going to use a dry brush method. Just work it on his face where the light would hit from whatever angle. I'm just going to lightly just brush it, very lightly over top. Same thing for the yellow, but we're going to use moon dust because it's a little bit brighter. We're going to highlight all the yellow parts with moon dust. And you can see me drying it off. I dip it in the paint, dry it off, and just keep a little tiny bit on the brush. Now for the blue parts, we're going to use crystal blue as the highlight. Same deal as before. You'll see me soak up the brush and then dry it off on the paper towel next to me. We're going to lightly just add it. Now I'm going to use the matte black to put the pupils in his eyes. Just got to be very careful when you're doing this because you don't want to cover up all the green, all the hard work you just did. Now I'm going to use white as the highlight for the metal or the metallic wires and cables at the bottom. And lastly, we're going to use necrotic flesh, and that's going to be for the base, the other parts like the dark stone we used before. We're going to highlight it with necrotic flesh, give it like a greenish tint. We're going to completely dry brush that. Now for his jacket, it's the only part we haven't touched. We're going to use desert yellow, and we are also going to dry brush his jacket with this. And this right here is going to be the final product. I'm pleased with the work. You'll get a closer view here in a second in a light box. But I'd like to thank you guys for watching. If you want to catch live streams, I haven't done them as much, but I intend on doing more on Twitch and on Facebook. It's just harder because they're 2-hour videos, you know what I mean? Like this is a lot more consumable for you guys. It's, you know, 15 to 20 minutes tops. It's just cut down. These usually take about 2 hours to do at least. So, again, subscribe if you want to get notified when the new episodes come out. I'm trying to make more of these. It's just hard. It's a lot of stuff going on. But thanks for your support, guys. I'll catch you guys later. As always, thanks for watching. And later, Saiyans.